Hi, everyone. It's Denise Brown, and welcome to Caregiver Support Live. I'm here with my co-host, Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello,
How are you doing today?
I'm excellent. Thank you for asking.
Oh, awesome. Okay, then I am too. I am too. So with our Caregiver Support Live monthly video chat and podcast, we take a look at some situations that family caregivers might need some guidance around. And so Jennifer and I share some insights. And then when we have live attendees, they also add their suggestions. Our goal is at the end of our 30 minutes together, we share what might be a problem in your world with suggestions so that you feel a little better about it. So today we have two questions and they're tough ones. So let's see what we can do. Here's the first one. Question number one. I'm a crisis counselor and have to listen to my extremely narcissistic mother have existential crises and temper tantrums because of very minor things, while I talk to people 8 hours a day who want to kill themselves and are in the midst of real crisis situations. I bend over backwards to try and help her, and I am just not able to continue supporting her anymore. I just can't. She told me again recently that she should have never had children, and it was just her being real, not mean. She is the most self-centered, mean, and manipulative person I have ever met. But here I am sacrificing several forms of personal well-being in the process of taking care of someone who will never be a decent human. It's maddening. I am paying far more than my fair share, and she is draining me financially as well as she acts possessed. And that's not a joke. There is zero reasoning with her. Help. Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah. When we have malignant narcissists in our life, it is very, very difficult. And this is, I would say, a good example of a malignant narcissist. And I think what's important to know about malignant narcissists is that they are really feeding off destruction. And what they're looking for is a supply. You might have heard the term narcissistic supply. When they can push your buttons, they feel good. And it sounds like the mother in this situation has perfected pushing her daughter's buttons, which is why she continues to push them. What do you
Yes.
what do you think, Jennifer?
I thought the language that she used was so interesting. And it just gave us a really good sense of where she's coming from. Like, I have to listen. I bend over backwards. I'm sacrificing. She's draining me. So clearly, this person who can definitely see the perspective between her mom and the real crises of the world is feeling completely like a victim. And she kind of is. So my question was like, how can we get you from victim to victor, to controlling the situation? Because the truth is, she's choosing to support her mom. She's not choosing her mom's behavior, but if she's making that choice, she can stop. Now, there's consequences, right? Um, so I'm curious, is like, what is keeping her there? Is it obligation? Is it, I promised her years ago, all these things that we take on as children. That is sort of my question, is like, what's keeping you from making other arrangements? And you're smiling. So I think you have input.
Well, I just am going to throw out an idea, and that is I I would imagine she sees herself as this support system. That is her role at work. And it's been difficult for her to see herself in another role with her mother other than support system. And I
Mm,
think sometimes if we do something like change that role, if I'm no longer the support system for my mom, I think it could mean that I am failing at being a support system. If I
oh,
can't figure this out with my mom, what does it say about my work?
interesting. Yeah, that's a good point.
A- And I only have that insight as someone who was a long-term family caregiver for my parents while also supporting family caregivers. And I felt this pressure to show up in a different type of way, even
Mhm.
though I failed regularly at it. But I think you do put pressure on yourself if you're professionally in that role and you feel like you're failing in that role personally. I think you might have this really unhealthy habit of trying to be better at it personally. I think she feels that. Well, I'm guessing she might feel like I just have to figure this out with my mom. I can do it at work. My mom doesn't have these significant crises. Why can't I figure it out with her?
Mm. Yeah, I can totally see that.
And the challenge is her mom is unwell emotionally and mentally in a different way than the clients she's seeing during the day.
Yes.
And I think it's okay to separate the two roles. They are
Mhm.
not equal, and in many ways, they are unrelated.
Oh, very much so unrelated, I think.
Yes. And it
But I think because she is that role at work, she's more likely to become this in her personal life.
and it also could be vice versa because she has been this role for her mom her entire life. It's her role at
Mhm.
work. And in many ways, it has become her role in life. And I think it's thinking through, how do I stay in this role at work? And then what can I adjust so I have a different role personally with my mom?
Yeah.
A long time ago, when I went through life coach training, we learned this really interesting technique, which is the rules we live by in our life. We create these rules. So, for instance, I could only be successful supporting family caregivers if I was the best family caregiver for my parents. Well, that makes no sense, right? So, we also sometimes come up with a rule around I am a good daughter if I do all these things. And
Yes.
instead of having qualifiers about whether or not you actually are a good daughter, the rule can become, I am a good daughter.
Mhm. And
And
I think what plays into this too is like, what will people think?
yes,
What will
right.
people think if I say I can't do this anymore? You know,
Yes,
oh, she's a horrible daughter,
right, exactly. Exactly. And I think we have talked about this theme in other shows, and it's the theme or of either or. Either I do as my mom demands, or I don't do anything as it relates to my mom. And what we're looking for is the and.
Yeah.
I can stay connected with my mom and I can give myself enough space so that I'm well, because her wellness is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
If we
So,
were, yeah, if we were to redefine her role with her mom, what could that look like?
yeah, I would ask her, like, what is the hardest part for her? Is it the emotional piece or is it the financial piece? And like, let's take that and what are the other options? Is there a financial, if financial is the hard part, what other financial options do we have for mom and how can you remove yourself from it? You're still involved emotionally, you can handle that, but the financial piece, we're out. Um, or vice versa, with the emotional piece. Although I tend to think the emotional piece here is probably harder for her.
And I think they also do feed into each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
You're more
I
likely to be willing to financially support someone when you feel like they're appreciating it.
Right. And if you're trying to win your mother's love, it
Yeah.
could also feel like I'm trying to buy her love with financial support.
I'm glad you said that because I think there's this, and we're assuming this is a woman.
Oh, right. We are making that assumption. Thank you for that.
And
That could
it's
be
okay
wrong.
because I think there is something with this mother-daughter role that we see a lot where it's, we forget that this isn't just an older adult in the family. This is mom. And there's so much attached to that, whether they're a narcissist or not. You know, we do want to please, we do want approval, even if they're never going to give it to us.
Right. And so then the shift becomes, what do I approve of?
Yeah.
It's a it's a never ending battle with mom. So how do I end the battle and instead decide I am going to create new rules around interaction, financial support, so that I don't give up everything and receive nothing in return.
Yeah.
And I do think it's interesting to look at what other kinds of programs could step in and help. So it's this idea that, okay, maybe my role is the one who organizes the programs that help.
Yeah.
But I am no longer the program that helps.
I'll make the calls.
Yes, I'm going to make the calls.
I'll
And I
interview
also,
the people, but
yes,
yeah.
and I truly believe that it is not for us to sacrifice financially, emotionally, and our physical well-being chasing love.
Yeah.
We can instead move into, I love myself. I love myself. And because of that, these are the different choices I'm going to make. And I should also say that we should talk about quickly when you make different choices and show up differently in a relationship, that is very difficult to do. So we're talking about really two really difficult things, changing the role and then managing the earthquake that happens after
Mhm.
you change the role and put in boundaries.
And this is where outside support for the letter writer would be excellent and necessary
Yes. Yes.
because it would
And
be very easy to get pulled right back in.
absolutely. And I think it's also important to understand that this is a process and there are going to be some steps back, steps
Yeah.
forward, and it also could change. So, for instance, I have a sister who's a malignant narcissist, and so she has been very destructive with her daughters. And one in particular really struggled with how do I keep this relationship with my mother? And her therapists all said, step away. And she tried to step away. And what she learned was it just made it worse for her. She was
Mm.
better having a relationship and putting boundaries around it rather than just saying, I can't be with you, mom. So I think it's important to know that the form it takes will change and evolve, and that's okay.
I love that addition. I think
Yeah.
that's
And if
important.
you decide, you know what, I just need to take a break from mom for for 2 weeks
Mhm.
or a day,
Yeah.
it's okay. And it could start off with, you know what? I am the manager of her programs, which means I get time off. And then you
Mhm.
get to pick which days you have as time off from managing mom's programs. And then mom has what she needs in terms of others to call when she needs something.
Yeah. And we don't know the situation. So she may be living in an assisted living placement and have these supports and not using them, because
Right, right.
mom is pulling her in so much. So there may
Yes,
be things already in place that she could use.
right. And it's okay. I would say it's imperative to use them,
Yeah.
especially because we have to remember that we as family caregivers have a future. And we want to show up into our future in our best shape possible. And our best shape possible for our future starts today. What are the choices we make today so that we show up in our future in good health, financially sound, emotionally, I guess you would say, well? It's
Mm.
important that we do things today. Okay, so I think we came up with change the role, have support for the change in the role, and
Mhm.
then let it evolve. And I guess the other piece would be let yourself off the hook.
Mhm.
One of the things that I would tell my mom about my sister is that my sister is not well. If she were well, she would make different choices. And I think maybe the family caregiver in this situation can think of her mom as not well too.
Yeah.
And that because she's not well, she's acting out of that illness.
Yeah.
There's a book called, I mean, this is going to sound a little drastic, but it's called The Sociopath Next Door.
Oh,
It's,
I've heard of that.
yes, it's on my reading list, but I haven't read it yet. And I think the author did do a follow-up book, and it might be something like The Sociopath in the Family or something like that. So I think it's helpful to read about malignant narcissism. The more you understand it, the better you understand what's happening and why reality seems so crazy.
There's a really good YouTube channel with I think it's a psychologist who talks all about narcissism, which has been really helpful.
Yes, I wish I could remember her name because she also
Yeah.
came out with a book in the spring that was really
Mhm.
helpful.
Yeah, she's good.
I just want to ask quickly if anybody who has joined us live would like to add a quick insight, and then we'll tackle the second question. You also are welcome to post in the chat room too. If you have any insights that you'd like to type in the chat room, we'll go ahead and share them.
Oh, you're muted.
There you go. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say hi to everyone and apologizing for being a little late.
It's
I
okay.
also need to leave probably before the session is over. I
That's
have to
okay.
meet my daughter's nurse. So
Yes,
3 o'clock.
that's
So I
okay.
want to
Yeah,
make sure you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Thanks for being
Uh,
with us today. Good to see you.
my pleasure, Denise. Can I just add, well, this is so interesting. And some of the things that came to mind was, I feel like there's a narcissist person in almost every other family. As you're describing, I mean, as you just, within the conversation, I feel like, wow, Denise is actually talking about my mother. I mean, really, really. And so here's the question. What happens if I'm a remote caregiver? My sister, my older sister, is taking care of her at home. And this is overseas, in the Dominican Republic. Now, what happens when the direct caregiver, the main caregiver, doesn't realize or recognize that your loved one is sick? That is, I don't know if this is an issue with certain cultures. It maybe might not be an American thing, but in my culture, they actually blame everything on aging. She's just old, you know. Like the senile, they say she's, so it's never dementia or whatever it is that might be, affecting her health. Please don't talk about, taking her to the doctor and get evaluated, get a screen. I keep asking, can you just take her, please, for a neuropsych evaluation? That's all I'm asking. My sister lately, this is her new thing because she doesn't know how to handle that. She says, I am going to take her to the doctor and I want them to prescribe some medications. I mean, so you hear all these things, and it's so So she went from nothing's wrong with mom, she just old, to I can't take it anymore. I want her to be medicated. So how to, I'm not remote. I mean, I done it with my own father here, in the States, and I handle things very differently. So I'm just a support for my sister, another decision maker. But it is interesting how, you put yourself and you say like, I would have handled it very differently, but I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is so difficult when it's that long distance.
Right.
It's very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And it's too bad that there isn't an easier process to get a diagnosis. I mean, that's a true failure of that older adult and of the family members.
Right.
Because with a correct diagnosis, then you have an understanding of what do we
Thank you.
do? How do we
Exactly.
manage this? How do
Yes.
we, yeah. And,
Mhm.
and when I understand the disease, then I understand how to cope better.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder if, and you can let me know if this is possible, if it's a little bit of a pivot in your conversations with your sister, and you probably have already done this, so let me know that as well,
Mhm.
from offering a suggestion, it sounds like she's a little resistant, to instead saying, wow, I just think this is so hard what you're doing. What could I do to support you?
Okay. So I've done the first part. I haven't actually offered, to ask the question, how can I support you? Because I don't think she's open to that.
Yeah.
Her
And
attitude
yeah,
is like, I
yeah,
don't have your opinion. I don't,
yeah.
yeah.
And that's okay. I think
So I
for
can
your,
still say that, I
yeah,
think.
just say,
Yeah.
how can I support you? And she
Yeah.
says, I don't need anything. Then
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I would say, let it go. And then every once in a while, just check in. I know the last time we talked, you said you were okay and you didn't need anything, but I just want to let you know I'm really here to support you. It's
Mhm.
important to me that I support you in the way that works for you.
I can certainly do that. Yeah, I'll try. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is, right?
Yeah, I know. It's well,
Mm,
you're reading all these personalities, and let's face it, we're not
yeah,
mind readers,
right.
but we're trying to mind read.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer, what would you add?
I was just thinking about what you said about culturally, this is the case with where they're let's not get a diagnosis. I think you're right on the money with that. I've seen that with a lot of different cultures, and it is just, oh, they're just aging,
Mm-hmm.
sort of push it under the rug. And with, the culture just within certain families, we don't talk about it. We just
Right.
handle it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that does add another challenge, especially if we
Yeah,
don't talk about it.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it feels sort of like here we go again. Because I went through it with my father. I mean, he was diagnosed here in the United States with vascular dementia. Why? Because I took him to the neurologist and I asked, can he be evaluated?
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many layers. I mean, even going back to the culture piece, even actually having that conversation, I was the one that had to, explain my dad what was happening. For me, it was important that not only my father will know what was happening to him, but the rest of the family, so we can support him better. Like you were saying, Denise, I'm right there with you. The more educated we are, the more we able to support him. Oh my God. Are you crazy? No, now where did you come up with that? He doesn't have dementia. He just, oh, what are you talking? Um, Let me put it this way. My father is a medical physician. My husband is a medical physician in the States, and he's an internist. He sees a lot of elderly patients. So he diagnosed my father before I took him to the neurologist, but I didn't dare to mention anything to the family until another doctor diagnosing. And even then, they were saying like, no, it's not true. Let's get a second opinion. You know what I mean? So yeah. I actually handled it much better because I was POA. I was handling everything, and I just said, I am so sorry. I don't have your support, basically. But I'm on charge here, and I'm doing the best I can so he can have the best quality of life. But it was very stressful. It is it's stressful when you're doing it on your own. So we all know, you all understand that. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well, I think something that we don't necessarily see, but what you've just described, or we don't necessarily realize it, is we're always in the front of
Mhm.
reality, and everybody else is back there. And we're staying in the front, moving
Mhm.
forward with reality, and everybody else is catching up at their own pace, but we can't wait for them to catch up. We have to
Thank you.
keep, yes, we have to keep moving forward.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
We have to keep, because if we don't keep moving forward, then something's
Yeah.
going to get missed, something's going to get worse.
Mhm.
And yeah, so we have to stay in the lead, and then also at the same time, which is really hard, let go of trying to get everybody else to come up to the lead with us.
Exactly. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah.
I guess my last question to you is, who supports you?
My husband, I feel,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
he's been there all
yeah,
along. Even today with my daughter. Yeah.
yeah.
He's my
Well, it's,
support system. Yeah.
yeah, and we can see your face absolutely light up when you talk about him.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. All right. We're almost at time. May I
Okay.
just tell one story about my dad?
Of
Yeah.
course.
My
Yeah.
dad is from the narcissistic side of the family. And so I would go with him to his doctor's appointments, and I would sit in the back seat. My parents would be in the front seat, and I would say, "What's our game plan for this doctor's appointment?" dad, my dad would turn around and say, "You're not saying anything. There is no game plan. You're going to be there and quiet." Okay, yeah, right. Okay. So then we'd go into the doctor's appointment, and my dad couldn't hear. He couldn't understand the doctor because the doctor mumbled. The doctor was just terrible, but my dad liked him. And
Mm.
so I would just pay attention and interject as I could,
Mhm.
asking a question, clarifying information. And then we'd get back in the car, and my dad would turn to me and say, "I'm so glad you were here today. I couldn't hear a darn thing that doctor said." So it was always interesting to me, the
Yeah.
difference between what it was like going in, you're not here to talk. And I always thought, well, what am I here for? But anyway, I thought it was important to go. And they never said you can't go. They always like, are you coming? And it was so interesting. You have to come, but you cannot say anything.
Okay.
But then later, oh, thank God you were there. I couldn't hear anything.
Oh my God.
It is interesting. All the landmines we navigate.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Which we get used to navigating. No
Mhm.
wonder we're exhausted. No wonder we're exhausted.
Right.
My
Yeah.
gosh, because we're the only ones that can see the landmines.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we're at time. Jennifer, what else would you like to add?
Well, in both of these situations, I just encourage people to reach out and get support for yourself in these situations. And that's something that we can provide for you with the caregiving consultant. So
Yes, our community is caringourway.com. We've got lots going on there. You can join us every month for our Caregiver Support Live. You can ask us a question and we'll do what we can to help you. And then our certified caregiving consultants have free complimentary sessions for you as well. And we also are launching professional listening artists, and Yocasta is going to be our first professional listening artist.
oh,
Excited.
good for you.
Yeah.
I should have
I'm
a
looking
trumpet that
forward
I
to it.
play. Yeah,
Right,
that I
yeah.
should.
Awesome.
I'm very
Yeah.
excited. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this was really fun. Thanks you. I mean,
Thanks for
doesn't
having me.
it
It's great.
sound crazy to say that this was fun to talk about such a really upsetting and emotional situation? And it is helpful to
It
talk
is.
it out with people who get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's nowhere else that you can bring all this to the table and
Yeah.
Exactly. So
Forget
I'm
it.
very grateful too.
Yeah.
Thank you to you both. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Jennifer, for our listeners and viewers who would like to be in touch, what's your website address?
It's becomingbravecoaching.com.
Okay, nice and easy. And we connect on the first Friday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And you're welcome to join us. You can register through our community, caringourway.com. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks, Jennifer. Good to
Thank
see you
you.
guys. I
Same
hope
here.
everybody has a good weekend.
Yes.
Too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.